Well, still waiting on parts for the turntable there, the record player, record changer. So I thought I'd drag out the amplifier here and radio chassis. So we can start taking a look at that. I've got all the tubes pulled right now. And I have it plugged in to the Variac isolation transformer over there and the dim bulb tester. And I brought up the tube voltages here, tube voltage chart. I'll just do a quick check here of the power transformer and see if it's putting out the right filament voltages and AC voltage to the rectifier. So we'll turn it on, and looks like we're drawing about a quarter of an amp. So it says on the 5Y3 we should have on pins 4 and 6 about 320 volts AC. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, we got 305, 5, 6, I think it is, and 305 or 6 on those two pins, and I believe pin 8 is the heater voltage, so that's reading 5.2, what we should have. So let's just check here on maybe just one or two of these other tubes. On the output tubes we should have the filament voltage on pin 2. Pin 2. So we've got 6.4 on that one. And just check it on this one too. And 6.49, 6.5. So it looks like we have filament voltages and the high voltage B plus, at least the AC portion of it. So I would say that transformer, plus we've got obviously the light there, which is probably 6.3 volts. So it looks like that thing's working properly, and we can move on to the next step. Alright, well, this seems like the power transformer is good. Not too sure about the amplifier yet. I need to, and the radio itself, I need to dig into that. But I was looking at this mechanism here, and this seems to be some type of an automatic tuning mechanism. There's actually a little electric motor down here, and it drives an axle here, which drives this little intermediate axle, and drives these gears somehow. And I'm not sure how you tune this, but these seem to interact with these push buttons here and tune the radio. Let me demonstrate how that works. Now there's two springs missing here on these two little gears, so I have to pull those back with my finger or else the thing won't work. But there's 1, 2, 3, 4 buttons that will work. So as you can see, as you press a button, you can see how it tunes the radio. Draws a lot of current, as you can see on the dim bulb tester over there. This thing runs, it's sucking some amps, but yeah, it seems to work. That's pretty entertaining. I can do that all day. So anyway, that part seems to be working. I just need to replace these two springs here. That see, I've got 4 springs that are there and 2 springs are missing, so I need to somehow find a spring that matches these so that it pulls those arms back with the correct pressure. And then I need to figure out how to tune this thing. What radio stations is that tuned to, and how do you change it? I have no idea. But still pretty awesome. I love that. 1947 technology. I got the radio flipped upside down here, and start taking a look at the electronics. It looks all pretty original. See, there's even some old dog bone type of resistors here, a few of them. Those are usually, you see those mostly in radios from 30s. And this radio is made in 1947. I don't know if that'll show up down there, but the date code on that transformer is like the 34th week of 47. Well, I guess they were, I mean, this was made right after the war, so they probably still had some old stock from prior to the war or during the war, and that's what they were using. So it's mostly got the regular carbon composition type of resistors in here, and some old waxy capacitors, plus a lot of these Sprague black capacitors. I don't know if that's what they call the black beauties or not, but anyway, I think these are just regular paper and wax capacitors inside of a plastic case. You can see here on some of them they're actually starting to leak out a little bit, so they all need to be replaced. Now there's a hole right there where the original electrolytic capacitor was, the can, the multi-section can. So that was replaced at some point, and they moved it over here and just kind of extended it off of the chassis and ran some wires back to the original location. So I will get rid of that too and just put the electrolytics underneath the chassis. So I'm going to go through and measure all the resistors and make sure they're good, and start replacing capacitors. Get this thing working. Yeah, I'm making pretty good progress here on recapping this radio. You can see all the little orange drop caps that I've put in there to replace all the old waxies here. Some of these actually have Motorola in the name. That's interesting to see. And a lot of them are Spragues. So here's something I wanted to show too. There's some rework or repair that was done sometime in this radio's history. Right down in here is where the original multi-section can capacitor was, which is let's see, 230 microfarads and what is it, 20 microfarad at 25 volts and 230s at 300 volts or so. So that was originally right here. That's been removed, and this one was put in its place, and this was just one little standoff here, moved over to one side of the radio, I guess because it didn't fit in the original hole. And it was just 230 microfarads at 450 volts. And then for the 20 microfarad, they put this one in. So what they call these bathtub capacitors. It was actually a 25 at 50 volts, and it was just attached right there. And you can see the polarity has been reversed. They took the positive and connected it to ground, and moved the negative, just soldered it on here to the body and moved it over here, which is how that's supposed to be installed, so that was correct. But we're going to replace that one with this one here. Here's a real 20 microfarad at 25 volts, so that'll go right down here and replace that one. And then for the can, I'm just going to take two 30 microfarads, place them down in here close to where the original can was, under the chassis. So it's always entertaining to look through a radio and see what work has been done in the past and how they did it. No idea when this is done. I'm thinking maybe even in the 50s, but could have been the 60s. Certainly not recently, because this is a pretty old style capacitor. So I'm down to just, what, 3 old waxies over here to do. One old electrolytic that needs to go. Here's one more sprig down here that I need to get to, and then the electrolytics, and this will be ready to fire up. Alright, the recapping is done. I've got all the tubes back in and fired up. I'm getting some good hum on the speaker. It may be just because I've put a couple of resistors in there instead of the field coil. Put the equivalent resistance in. I may need to try to find a field coil or add some more capacitance to the filter circuit to get that hum down. But don't get anything on the radio here yet. If you turn that, that should be AM, and as I tune I'm not getting any action. There's a little bit of static, so don't think the radio's working yet. But if I switch this over to the record player, let's see what we get here.
You are too beautiful, my dear, to be true, and I am a fool for beauty, fooled by a feeling that because I had found you.
So we're getting pretty good volume and tone control on at least the amplifier section, which means
too beautiful for one man.
Turn that down. So, you know, right in here some places where the phono comes in, and let's see, that feeds in off of the volume control up here to the AM detector and first audio tube, and then over the output tubes. So we know the amplifier section's working. The output tubes, output transformer, and all of that, so I guess that's some success. So I'll have to dig in and see why the radios aren't working yet. But at least we got a good amplifier for the record player. There it goes. Alright, looks like I got all three bands of the radio working. For the most part, the problems that I was having were related to antennas. So I've got the FM antenna here running up and up there in my attic. There's the original FM loop antenna out of the radio, so I have to get that high enough to be able to receive a signal. And then for both the AM and shortwave, I've just got a wire here that goes over and eventually connects up to my gas pipe in the basement, and that seems to be a pretty good antenna. So right now it's on shortwave, and of course there's not very many good shortwave stations, especially nothing close to me. Here's one I've got tuned in. They mostly seem to be religious based or conspiracy theory stuff. I'm surprised there's any shortwave at all, but I guess it's still a thing. And here is AM band, and I'm getting quite a few channels here on AM coming in. There's one real strong one here.
God changes the...
I remember where it is.
There are fewer cleaners than usual because of pandemic safety protocols.
And that's my very local Chinese propaganda station. It's basically you know, Radio Beijing coming in here. But it's pretty interesting to listen to. get their perspective on things. And then FM, I believe, is this one, or is it that one? Anyway, it will come in. It's pretty weak. I think my antenna is still not very good, but I have gotten it working. Now you can hear the hum coming in too. So let me show you. That's 120 hertz hum. Probably coming from the power supply because I've just got a couple of resistors in there replacing the field coil, which I've got a new choke on order to replace that. Hopefully that'll get rid of that hum. So let me show you what I came up with on how to determine the frequency of that. Okay, the first message is, or the first way of determining hum frequency, if you want to see if it's 120 hertz or 60 hertz, if you can't really tell the difference by your ear, you can use this little frequency counter app that you can load up on your phone. And what's that? Let me get that close to the. See how it zeroes in eventually on if I stop talking. 120 hertz. Another way is to, here what I've done is I've just hooked up my audio generator to the back of the speaker too. That's also hooked up to the radio. And when you fire that up, you can see as you go off, right now it's set at 120 hertz. Oops. As you adjust it off, you can hear it on the speaker. You can hear the beat frequency. So what you do is you just get that right where the beat frequency stops, and that's going to be the frequency of the hum, which is, as you see on the dial, 120 hertz. So that's two methods of determining the frequency of your hum. Both of them seem to work. Okay, with the radio and amplifier working and the turntable, record player, record changer working, the next step is to try to refinishing the cabinet, which you can see before I got it, it has already been partially stripped. And I needed to figure out what I want to do there, because I'd like to leave some of this original finish on the radio, on the console. I do need to, this is just a piece of paper here, I need to try to clean this up on the computer and generate a decal and put that on a new piece of glass so that I have a dial. And then do some refinishing, which is something I haven't done really much of, so that'll be a bit of an experience. Plus, since I got this in a disassembled state, I don't know if all the parts are even there. I guess I'll find out. So that's the end of the radio and amplifier restoration. The next video will be trying to refinish the cabinet.